Back when I was being educated in nutrition back in the 80s, we were told that, salt causes hypertension, everything should be low salt or no salt. And that's what I was taught. But the latest in science actually says this, that not enough salt and too much salt may be a problem with hypertension and cardiovascular disease. So there's a middle road that you can have your salt. But when I read these studies and I look at the quality of the salt that's out there at the moment, I wonder what kind of salt they were using. Because there's good quality salts and there's bad quality salts. So for me, a bad quality salt is like anything else, it's refined. It's refined and it's got additives to it. So white salt is sodium and chloride, and if it's iodized, it has sodium iodate in it, and it has a free-flowing agent in it, as well as an anti-caking agent. You read the ingredients, you'll see that on there. The best thing you can do with that salt is maybe bathe in it a couple of times and then get rid of it. So what about good quality salts? Our good quality salts come from the ocean or they come from rock salt. But let's look at our ocean salts at the moment. So sea salt it comes from the ocean, and it's usually put on flat pans. The water dehydrates, the salt's collected, some goes to the refining process, but other is not refined. But what I'm finding is that I've been to one of those salt plains on the Skeleton Coast in Namibia, and all I saw, and this is, in the middle of nowhere, and it's on the Atlantic Ocean, and I saw plastic bags and rubbish and dead animals and birds and all sorts of stuff was in these salt pans. And that was when I decided that I didn't want to use sea salt anymore. So what I went to was a salt that was laid down by the ocean thousands and millions of years ago. And that comes from Peru, and it also comes from the Himalayas. And the easiest for me to access, considering how much we do sell here at Changing Habits, was the Himalayan salt, rock salt. But Himalayan salt was laid down by the ocean, and like all salt, is lacking in iodine. So what we do here at Changing Habits is that we have blended our Himalayan salt with seaweed, and we put it with dulse. And that dulse is high in iodine, it's high in iron, it's high in other minerals, as well as DHA, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. So we combine that with our Himalayan salt, and then we start to use that not only in our cooking, but also salting our foods. And the way I look at how much salt you can have or how little salt you can have all depends on your wonderful taste buds. If you've been eating real foods and you've been following everything that we've been doing at Changing Habits, your taste buds will become more attuned to what's too salty or not salted enough. So when I'm making porridge, for instance, and I cook some rolled oats, without salt, I'm sorry, it tastes bland. And you have to add more flavor enhancers such as sugars or other things that people want to put on it, like maple syrup. But when I put that salt in my porridge, and I maybe add some butter or some cream to it, or some yogurt to it, and some sprinkles of fruit, I find that I don't actually need any sweetener because of that salt taste. I also salt my meats, I salt my vegetables. I do sprinkle salt on everything, but in small amounts. I don't oversalt, but I don't undersalt as well. Your salt-water balance is so important. Under a change of 2% in your salt-water balance, you can tolerate. Over 2%, you start to see changes in your health. By the time it reaches between 10 and 15% change, you start to lose your hearing, you cannot see, or your vision dims, and your muscles start to get very weak. And over 15% change, you will see death. So the importance of that saltwater content in your body is important. Histamine is one of those parts of our biochemistry that allows us to balance our saltwater content. So if you have a histamine reaction, let's say some watery eyes, some sneezing, sniffly nose, just those irritations that you get when you have a histamine reaction, why don't you try something a little bit different? Why don't you get 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, you can put it on your hand, lick it off, drink 500 ml of water with that, and see what happens to those watery eyes, those red eyes, the sniffly nose, the sneezing. It's quite incredible when you change your saltwater content in your body starts to get that mix right, and that histamine reaction, not always, but sometimes will disappear. What does it hurt? You might as well give it a go. Salt's an important part of the diet, so make sure you get a good quality salt, iodize it naturally with seaweed, and start sprinkling it on your food.